Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about antiviruses and what are the best antiviruses that we can choose for personal and work. So we all have a need to install antivirus on our machines, whether we are at home or we are at work. But what is really the best antivirus? There is plenty of different antiviruses that you can select, and it is sometimes confusing what is really the best antivirus that you could choose for home or you could choose for work. So I'm gonna show you a little bit comparison between different antiviruses in this video, and you can decide for yourself what to do with it. I'm going to use three different resources in this video. The first resource I'm going to use is PC Magazine and the best antivirus prediction for 2019. The second resource is basically the NSS Lab reports. So I'm going to browse to the top of the page, and NSS Lab is actually a provider of doing security tests basically on different solutions, different security solutions, and they go through all different antiviruses and do some security evaluations on those antiviruses and come up with what is the best really antivirus from their point of view and what's the most secure antivirus for basically home and work usage. As you can see, they have basically done a comparison for a lot of different antiviruses. And the last resource I'm going to talk about is Magic Quadrant, Gartner Magic Quadrant. And Magic Quadrant is basically a very good resource for enterprise and basically companies that they're looking for antivirus. And you can basically look at their report and understand what are the best endpoint protection platforms or antiviruses that you can really use within the work environment. So if you look at the PC Magazine, you can see that there are obviously some antiviruses that they are recommending: Bitdefender, Norton, Kaspersky, McAfee, and so on and so on. And you can see some of them are obviously editor's choice, like Kaspersky and Bitdefender and Webroot and so on. So some of them are basically preferred, but they're all pretty much rated at a good rate. So these are the recommended antiviruses from PC Magazine point of view. So if we move to NSS Lab, NSS Lab is a pretty good actually solution or pretty good report to look at and understand what is the security effectiveness of these different solutions. So as you can see, they haven't obviously done a test for CrowdStrike, that's why it's unverified, but they've done it for a lot of other products, right? So if we look at they got obviously these TCO report, which shows basically which each antivirus is where on the chart in terms of effectiveness and in terms of obviously TCO, which is total cost of ownership. And you can see obviously Kaspersky is right up there, and we got Trend Micro, Cisco, and so on and so on. But the actual chart that I want to show you is this chart. So you can see all those antivirus that have been tested is on this chart. You can see their security effectiveness. Obviously, they do penetration testing and a lot of, kind of tests on the actual solution, and they figure out what the rating is for each individual solution. You can see 98% is Bitdefender. If we got Carbon Black, Cisco, they all have different ratings, 99% Kaspersky, and so on and so forth. So there are, obviously, the security effectiveness is something that is very important for an antivirus to just make sure that it is actually effective. And then we have the total cost of ownership. Some of these antiviruses are obviously more expensive overall than others, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. And the way that they actually calculate the total cost of ownership is not just obviously the licensing and cost. Obviously, it's about maintenance and how much work is involved and what is the risk, and a lot of other elements involved to calculate the total cost of ownership. And then you can see the overall rating. Some of them are security recommended. Obviously, they recommend it. Some of them are recommended, which are still good products, so they are recommended. Some of them are natural, obviously, that they don't have a really strong view on that. And they have caution specified for some of the others that they just want to make sure that you are basically careful if you're going with those solutions. Make sure that you obviously consider all the possible impact that it might have on your environment. So in some cases, it might actually make sense to go with any of those solutions. For example, I don't necessarily 100% agree with some of these. Like we have Semantic specified as Quotient. It's not that kind of a bad product. Semantic is a good product. So obviously that is not necessarily obviously what is aligned with what I think, but their rating is actually kind of a guidance that could help us to identify what is the right product to choose, right? So some of these products are enterprise product, and some of them are really more home-based, and they are available for end users as well. So now moving to Gartner Magic Quadrant. So I'm just gonna go directly to the Magic Quadrant table. So for those of you who are not familiar with Magic Quadrant, they got these 4 different sections for leaders, visionaries, niche players, and challengers. And you can see there are lots of different vendors involved in all of those. And basically, you can see we got Semantic right on the top. As I said, the NSS Lab report shows Semantic is not really that effective, but obviously it's on the top of the list for Gartner, which kind of questions the NSS Lab reports a bit. We got Sophos, Trend Micro, CrowdStrike, which was the one that wasn't tested on NSS Lab, Kaspersky, and you can see it's a very crowded market. There are a lot of obviously different products, and it kind of makes it challenging for people to select and understand what is the right thing. But normally, the leaders are really good in terms of, when we're looking at Magic Quadrant, normally it's enterprise solutions. So we're normally looking into selecting a product that is really suitable to be used in an enterprise or work environment, not necessarily personal. But you can see there are a lot of different basically products in there already, and depending on use cases, it might be different. What is the appropriate solution? But a combination of these Magic Quadrant, NSS Lab, and PC Magazine could actually help us to identify what is really the best antivirus from our point of view for personal use and for work or enterprise companies. So I'm going to show you my conclusion. By no means this is confirmed by NSS Lab or Gartner or any of those. So these are basically what I think is appropriate. So if you're using antivirus for personal use, based on the effectiveness, we can see Bitdefender, Kaspersky, and McAfee or Sophos. They are basically the preferred antiviruses for home use cases, for personal use cases, for even very small offices that you want to actually have just kind of an isolated individual antivirus on your machines. But when we move to the enterprise or company-wide antiviruses, you actually look into other additional capabilities and additional features, and those are very important. So Sentinel-1, CrowdStrike are probably the 2 good ones that they provide, antivirus solutions as well as detection and response mechanisms. So I have tried to identify some of the use cases in enterprise that you don't necessarily look into those when you are looking at a personal antivirus. Central management and administration is one. Detection and response, integration with security monitoring tools, ease of operation, support of different operating systems, flexibility of the solution. You want to be able to do changes and stuff when you're working in an enterprise environment, and basically licensing and pricing, how that works in an enterprise environment. The second choice is Trend Micro, and the third choice is between Silence and Carbon Black. So these are basically what I personally would look into if I'm comparing products and trying to obviously get something in place. You can definitely look into those reports and try to figure it out for yourself, but these are my recommendations for personal use and for enterprise use. I hope this has been useful, and thank you very much for viewing.